I played literally every single beat 'em ups you can ever imagine on Game Boy Advance, all the way from European regions to American regions and of course the Japanese regions as well, like exclusives. And you guys will be surprised, like there are like just so many of them. Probably like 30 to 40 do exist for this console, I would say. And I have given like a tier list, like S tier, A tier, B tier, whatever. But we are going to look at every single beat 'em ups launched for the Game Boy Advance, and you guys will be surprised like how many do exist for this. Well, like I was doing like 30 days of only doing Game Boy Advance, so I thought this idea could be awesome because I kind of like beat 'em ups if you ever watch my videos or something. And if you're a newcomer over here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button cause man, the inflation is rising. We gotta feed our kids, right? So don't forget to do that. So alright, let's get started. So I'm mentioning this game alphabetically. So starting out with Action Man Robot Attack. But first of all, how many kids out there actually remember this Action Man guy from Hasbro? I have never heard about them in forever. But anyway, this is definitely a European beat 'em up with cool bright looking graphics. While I played this game for the first time, I actually kinda like it. It is kinda like a platformer beat 'em up with checkpoints, kinda like Sonic and Mario games. But you go around and collect these action letters and then this disc. So basically it's like a masculine dude with a ninja mechanics, and then in the next stage you turn into some Native American dude with bow and arrow, and then you get like guns, wrestling punches, and then all kind of stuff. You also turn into this gorilla too in this game, and the controls feel so good throughout the whole gameplay. A nice European platform style beat 'em up that I think so I can recommend this game, and it ranks as a solid A on my list. I have seen this game a lot in Twitch retro community, and everybody sings about this game that this game is a masterpiece. I actually agree with them because this game is full-fledged, fits well, and showcase that how Game Boy Advance could be pushed with all this fighting mechanics. A lot of my friends mentioned that Astro Boy was the first anime ever arrived in America, but I'm not sure how exactly true it is. I have not watched Astro Boy personally, but after playing this game, I kinda feel like I wanna watch this anime. But yeah, this AI dude, I mean sure he's created by some older scientist that goes around and saves the planet. The special beam kind of feels like a Dragon Ball Z Goku guy going around with his Kamehameha. And also this game has like two endings. I reached to the bad ending sadly, but the good ending is where you have to beat the hardest boss in the final round. The game is like a beat 'em up mixed with some like Mega Man and Dragon Ball Z type of the elements mixed in it, and the art style is super perfect. I'm sure a lot of the retro gamers out there going to love this game, and sure this game deserves solid S on my list. There's always gotta be a Batman game on every single video game console, isn't it? I remember those good old days on the Batman on the NES and Genesis and Super Nintendo, and then the 2000 era where everything changed a lot. And by reading this game title making me realizing was Batman in China? We do have Batman in India though. Anyway, speaking of this game, there is nothing much going on and you just go around and kick these people around the apartment buildings and then inside the gutter, I mean sewers, and the factories and things like that. The game sure lacks variety and the music is kinda okay to me. It is a good game, but personally to me, this just feels like an average, or I would say below average game. This deserves perfect C on my tier list. I was really mesmerized when I saw this game for the first time when I had it on my Game Boy Advance back then. It's a freaking Bruce Lee game on the Game Boy Advance. Nice music this game has. There's sure a lot of combo combinations you can do in this game for fighting and progressing further. I know the sprites is not that cool, just a generic looking sprite, but the gameplay is super awesome actually. It sure has some like a puzzle solving mechanics like finding a green card and bunch of keys, and then you got a lot of items in this game, and the most famous is of course nunchucks. I personally like the animation in this game, like the way he climbs, and those of course flexing moves of karate and kung fu mixed together, and the sound effect in this game is quite interesting and it keeps the player more engaging. I would definitely give this game solid B on my list. It's a good game. I was really surprised to see this game exist on Game Boy Advance. Of course it is a collection edition, but man, freaking NES game on the Game Boy Advance. Who would have imagined Capcom would do this? But I tried a lot of NES game on the Game Boy Advance and they actually kinda look fantastic on the OG hardware screen. It doesn't look like stretched out to me at all, and interesting to see this emulation is working on Game Boy Advance. But I have to say one thing, this game is probably the best beat 'em ups out there. Like the top tier premium level best beat 'em up game. The music sounds like some Mega Man games. I mean sure, like some might be a developer of the Mega Man 2 out there, I guess, right? I think so the same guy made this music. But yeah, it's a fun experience on the NES. I mean, the NES game on Game Boy Advance, and this deserves solid freaking A on my tier list. I usually love Japanese games. I have that weird obsession with the Japanese culture because they shaped our childhood, which is of course this gaming consoles and anime, if you ever growing up watching anime. But man, this game right here is just nothing but some anime waifus. But the gameplay is meh. I personally did not like this game at all. The controls are super weird and combo system in this game is below average. But surprisingly, the combo system only works in the pause menu screen, but not in the actual gameplay. Quite not a good experience I had with this game. I expected a lot from this game, but it just disappointed me. This game ranks like C in my books. A solid C. We all have spent time with Beamy and Jimmy, right? I remember the NES version where AI of this game is so misbehaving. This is completely fixed here. I feel like the AI of this game is powered by Final Fight engine, I think. Yeah, Final Fight engine. The graphics are fantastic in this game, and the music is fantastic too in this game. The combat feels satisfying, and this is probably a good beat 'em up, I would say. And I think so it ranks solid A on my list. Now speaking of this game, I was really mesmerized by looking at the graphics, but oh my god man, this game actually follows the whole story. If you ever watch Dragon Ball anime, the combat feels super fluid, the graphics are colorful, and the progression of this Goku character feels completely real. You can also play as a Krillin in this game too, once you beat the story mode, and I think this game is by far the best Game Boy Advance game I would ever say. The strange difference I have noticed that the cutscene in these games are just taken off. Like for example, like Balma panties is only available in the American version but are not in the European version. But European version has like a better SFX or sound effects. I think if you love Dragon Ball and if you want some awesome beat 'em up game on Game Boy Advance, then I just highly recommend this game. This game ranks solid S on my tier list. Super underrated. I have seen a lot of videos about this game. Some say that this game is fantastic, some say this game is masterpiece, especially on the internet, but I would say this game is just average. Nothing too much going on in this game, and the combat system in this game feels okayish to me. It is your average beat 'em up game, with of course some Dragon Ball symbol on it. I wish this game had more variety and things going on, but I think so. People out there still enjoy this game, isn't it? Because it has a Dragon Ball symbol. I mean, I get it, right? But I'm sure a lot of people have a nostalgia with this game. So for the sake of the nostalgia and things like that, I would just give a solid B to this game. A solid freaking B. Now speaking of this Final Fight game, this game feels awesome just because like how fluid the control schemes are in this game, and the graphics are super fantastic for the Game Boy Advance standards, I would say. One thing I love about this game is how L and R shoulder buttons are super responsive when this Endor guy gets in your way. And this guy is a continue, or I would say the credits drainer, if you know the arcade terms. So yeah, I think so Final Fight is highly rated on my list for the first beat 'em up you should ever actually play on the system. But one thing I want to highlight about like the music in this game, it's completely like a roller coaster type of the vibe, like super fast paced, and the soundtrack just suits well for this beat 'em up. Whereas in a Super Nintendo, in like Sega CD version and the arcade version, it is super slow, which makes me sleepy, you know, during the gameplay. So I think so Final Fight 1 deserves better on my list, and I think so this game deserves solid S. S. Gekido Advance Kintaro Revenge is visually a stunning and action-packed beat-em-up on the Game Boy Advance. Developed by Nap's team, it follows Tetsuo, a warrior investigating a cursed village plagued by some demonic forces. Yeah, some Japanese folklore right there, I guess. The game stands out, it's its fluid combat, hand-drawn sprite animations, and eerie atmosphere, making it the most stylish brawlers on the system. The combat is quite fast, and it has like a satisfying feature of combos and platforming elements, and a unique day-night cycle that alters enemies' behavior. While the game is relatively short, its intense action and haunting visuals make it more memorable experience, I would say. It is the most memorable experience, I think so. The lack of the co-op mode and some clunky platforming sections just hold back slightly, I guess, but overall it's a hidden gem for a beat 'em up fans, I would say. If you're looking for a dark, fast-paced action game on the Game Boy Advance, then I would say Gekido Advance is worth playing. Just keep in mind that you also have to like collect the key cards in this game, or I would say keys only, I guess, because you have to progress, I guess, right? So it's kind of like Zelda game. I would say a Zelda style beat 'em up. This game ranks solid A on my list. Solid A. Genseishin Justirisers Souchaku Chikyuu no Shitachiya. God, this name is a Japanese exclusive beat 'em up on the Game Boy Advance, based on like a Tokusatsu series. The game follows standard side-scrolling brawler formula, allowing players to choose between the Riser Glen, Riser Kageri, and Riser Gant, each with the unique attacks and abilities to transform into the more powerful forms. Combat consists of basic punch and kicks and special moves. While the controls are functional, they feel stiff at times. A notable feature in the inclusion of Risros, the team giant mecha, which players can control in large-scale battles. However, the gameplay quickly becomes repetitive due to the limited enemy variety and lack of depth in the moveset. Graphically, the character sprites are well designed, but suffer from the choppy animation, and the background feels generic to me. The soundtrack is serviceable but unremarkable, failing to stand out amongst the GBA titles. While the fans of Justirisers or Tokusatsu in the general might find this game enjoying, I would say, like seeing the favorite heroes in action, But the game lacks that polish and excitement of the superior beat 'em ups like Dragon Ball Advance Adventures or Final Fight 1. Overall, it's a decent but a forgettable experience, I would say. And I think so it ranks solid B on my list. I gotta give that B because of the art style, right? Guardian Hero Advance on the GBA is a solid concept at bringing the beloved Saturn classic on handheld, but it comes with its compromises. The game retains core beat 'em up and RPG mechanics, allowing players to level up stats and choose different story paths, adding replay value. Combat is fast-paced, featuring multiple players, flashy special moves and 3 plane battle system which lets you change between like the foreground middle and the background lanes. However, the transition in the GBA results in noticeable downgrades, including smaller sprites, weaker sound quality, and the removal of the co-op multiplayer, which was a major highlight of the original game, I guess. Despite these limitations, the game still offers fun branching storylines and deep combat, making it enjoyable. It's slightly flawed beat 'em up RPG for the handheld fans, I would say. I think so this game deserves solid B on my list. A solid freaking B. Now this game feels like Scott the Pilgrim type of the graphics on the Game Boy Advance, but there's some catch. This game gets repetitive, like super repetitive. Not too much variety and things going on in this game. The music just loops over and over, but it's a good music. Remember the Bruce Lee game we just looked? That game was way better than this game. But the sprites are quite huge in this game though. It is just an average game, I would say. And this game deserves solid B on my list. Nothing much I can say about this game, just solid B. Konji no Gash Bell, Makai no Bookmark on the Game Boy Advance is an RPG beat 'em up based on the popular anime and the manga Zatch Bell, Konji no Gashi Bell basically. The game blends side-scrolling action with the RPG elements, allowing players to control Gash and Kiyamaro as they battle through the demon world using the power spell-based attacks. Combat is fast-paced in this game with real-time encounters where player must strategically use spell cards while dodging the enemy attacks. The vibrant sprite work and soundtrack captures the anime's charm, but the repetitive enemy encounters and simplistic combat may feel repetitive over time. But despite this, the mix of RPG's progression, beat 'em up mechanics, and engaging story quite makes this game a fun experience, especially the fans of the series out there. This game ranks a solid B on my list. A solid freaking B. Now I'm surprised to see this NES game being launched on the Game Boy Advance, but it is one of the hardest video games out there on the NES, of course. There are like actually 2 versions which we will cover later in this video, but the American title says River City Ransom. This game is beloved by a lot of the Famicom fans out there, you know. I would say this game ranks like solid A on my list. It's a nice NES port for the Game Boy Advance. I think this game is just beyond my expectation. It looks exactly like Dragon Ball Advance Adventures to me, but the colors are just phenomenal to me. I have personally never watched the One Piece anime, so not sure how exactly it is following the story, but the gameplay wise, I have no complaints at all. The combat system in this game is super fantastic to me. It has like a long stretchy hands, of course, this character's moves, but I personally think that this game is awesome beat 'em up, I guess, right? And I think so I should recommend this game to everyone. It's a freaking solid A on my list. Highly recommend this game. I loved it. Super lovely. Power Rangers Dino Thunder on the Game Boy Advance is a side-scrolling beat-em-up that lets player control different Dino Thunder Rangers as they battle Mesogog's forces. The game features simple and satisfying combat, allowing players to switch between Rangers, each with unique abilities and attacks. Levels are straightforward. With platforming sections, enemies' encounters stay true to their Power Rangers formula. The game's visuals are kinda bright and colorful, I would say, while the music and sound effects are decent on the Game Boy Advance title. But it sure feels repetitive, and the level design lacks variety, making it more monotonous over time. Despite its flaws, Power Rangers Dino Thunder is a decent beat-em-up for the fans out there for the series, offering a nostalgic fun, and it's a classic Power Ranger action. A solid B on my list, I would say. Power Rangers Ninja Storm on the Game Boy Advance is a straightforward beat-em-up that captures the essence of the TV show, but it kinda lacks the depth. Players control different Rangers with each and unique abilities, battling through the repetitive side-scrolling levels against this Lothor's minions. While the combat is simple and accessible, it becomes monotonous due to the limited combos and basic enemies AI. The game visuals are bright and colorful, staying faithful to the show's aesthetic, but the animations and level design feel uninspired. Overall, the Power Rangers Ninja Storm is a decent but forgettable experience. It's the best suited for die-hard Power Rangers fans out there. I think so this game's solid B on my list, I would say. Just for the fans I'm doing. Power Rangers SPD on the Game Boy Advance is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, of course. Delivers a decent and formulaic action experience. Players can switch between the SPD Rangers, each with their own abilities, as they battle Grum's minions across the multiple stages. The combat is simple, featuring basic punches, kicks, and special attacks, but it lacks the combo depth, I would say, making it more repetitive over the time. The visuals are bright and colorful. What else I can say? The music is actually great in this game. I gotta give the extra points for the game music, I would say. But overall, this is a decent choice for the younger fans out there. I mean, I grew up watching Power Rangers SPD 2004, I guess. You know, that Red Ranger used to be my favorite guy, I would say. I mean, my favorite Ranger. I mean, you know, I'm straight, but you get it right. But anyway, Power Rangers SPD is a great game. It's a great game for me, I would say personally, but for the overall gameplay wise, I think so I will give this game just a B. Solid B, I would say. Not A, just B on my list. Power Rangers Time Force on the Game Boy Advance is a side-scrolling beat-em-up that delivers decent but unremarkable action experience. Players take control of Time Force Rangers, battling through the various stages to stop rancid evil plans. The combat is basic, with simple punches, kicks, and special moves, but it sure lacks depth, I would say, making the fights feel more repetitive. Game visuals are colorful, which captures the Power Rangers aesthetic well. But the animations and the enemies are very limited, like there is no variety in it, you know? The platforming sections add some variety, but can be feel sluggish due to the slip controls. Well, Power Rangers Time Force is a possible beat 'em up for the fans out there for the series, and I think so this game deserves solid B on my list. Power Rangers Wild Force on the Game Boy Advance is a solid beat-em-up action that stays true to its classic Power Ranger formula, but falls short in the execution. Players can switch between the Wild Four Rangers, each with their own abilities, as they battle through the generic enemy waves and platforming sections. While the visuals are colorful, but it sure feels generic, and the enemy designs is just repetitive. There's nothing much going on in this any Power Ranger games out there. You know, and the Megazord boss fight is alright, I would say. Of course, this game is not flawless, but for the fans out there, of course, I gotta give this game a B. What else I can say? Come on, man. Solid B. Take it. Pyuu to Fuku, Jaguar Byuu no Deru, Megane-Kun on the Game Boy Advance is a quickly light-hearted action platformer style beat 'em up based on the absurd humor of the Pyuu to Fuku Jaguar manga. The game features wacky characters, bizarre enemies, and offbeat humor that fans of the series will appreciate. The gameplay consists of side-scrolling platforming action with a mix with some simple combat mechanics, but it leans more on the humorous style than the deep challenging gameplay. The colorful visuals and expressive sprite work capture the manga's eccentric charm. Through the level design and mechanics feels somewhat basic, while the game might not be offering too much variety or something, but it's a unique personality this game has, and it sure has a comedic elements, but I would say a very amusing experience. For the fans, might like this. I think so this game deserves solid B. We just look at the 8-bit version of this Reverse City Ransom on the NES, on the Game Boy, right? But I think looking at this version, it looks refreshing to me and the controls are alright and nothing feels bad at all. I'm pretty sure the story and the layout of the game or enemies quite have changed in this version, but I think this game seems like a perfect port of the, Reverse City Ransom EX, I would say, on the Game Boy Advance. Nice 16-bit colorful graphics, I would say, and a nice music. So yeah, I think so it's solid A on my list. So speaking of this game, it looks fantastic to me. Seeing the top-down angle beat 'em up game for the first time looks awesome to me, of course. I mean, you can tell me this game is hack and slash or a beat 'em up or whatever you can call, but I think so this game is a perfect hack and slash type of the beat 'em up to me. I mean, why do we call Golden Axe a beat 'em up? Even though they don't go around and punch enemies, they use attacks, or I would say they use weapons, right? So I think so, yeah, this game ranks solid A on my list. It's a really great game. I had a lot of fun time with it. Do give this game a try. I promise this is not a meme thingy going on, but I actually kinda like this game. A beat 'em up game featuring Shrek. You go from the different variety of the levels in this game, and the graphics are quite fantastic too. If you like Shrek back in the day and you want to play some Shrek games for whatever weird reasons you have, you can try out this game. It's actually an awesome game and it gets solid A on my list. I can't believe I just ranked Shrek game a solid A. There's always gotta be Spider-Man game on the beat 'em up genre, isn't it? I'm not a Marvel fan personally, but I played this game on the stream and I actually kinda like it. The combat system in this game feels super fluid to me, and it sure has a lot of puzzles and things to solve in this game. But I think this game is a solid Marvel beat 'em up, I would say. A great Spider-Man experience you can get on the Game Boy Advance, and the game ranks at solid freaking A on my list. Yeah, I'm giving this game solid freaking A. This game layout kinda reminds me of Scott the Pilgrim style of the graphics. The lightsaber dude running around and smashing. What else the Star Wars games could be, right? But I actually like this game. This game is really fun. You can fight, upgrade your arsenal and progress and repeat. The game sure has a lot of variety too, I would say. I highly recommend this game if you're a Star Wars fans. And it gets a solid freaking A. A great beat 'em up. another Nintendo Switch retro style looking beat 'em up on the Game Boy Advance. And this game is by far the best beat 'em up game on the Game Boy Advance too. The combat and the animation feels fantastic in this game, and the gameplay has a lot of variety. It's like Shredder's Revenge on the Game Boy Advance, so if you like the TMNT beat 'em ups or something, like if you ever played the TMNT games, this will be right up your alley, I think. Deserves solid freaking A on my list, and I wish they could have marketed this game very well, because I think so this game released on the very dying era of the GBA, I guess, when it's about to die. But yeah, perfect beat 'em up. Keep in mind the previous game I showed you was a very different one. Even though the franchise is the same and the previous game was Team MT, but this game is just a full form version of the Team MT. But I played the game and it feels very average to me. Not a bad game at all, but it's not as fluid as the previous Team MT1 game I was talking about. And the design feels very repetitive. And I think this game deserves solid freaking B on my books, I would guess. Just an average beat 'em up, just an average Team MT beat 'em up. Nothing much to say about in this game. Now, this is a side-scrolling beat-em up that attempts to capture the dark humor and wacky energy of the Cartoon Network show. Players can control Bill, Mandy, Grimm, and Irwin as they battle through the hordes of the supernatural enemies using punches, kicks, and special attacks. The game visuals does a very decent job of replicating the show's art style, but there is nothing much going on over here. It's very simplistic, but very repetitive, lacking the depth of the variety of the things going on in this game. The levels also feel very generic to me, a little incentive for the exploration. While the fans of the series might enjoy the humor and familiar characters, I guess, overall, the game feels very underwhelming. I don't think so I should give this game even a B. I think so C is the perfect way of describing this, I guess. Yeah, total freaking C. I generally see Tiny Toon games as just a platformers, but man, there was actually a beat 'em up game on the Game Boy Advance. But I dare you if you can ever make it up to the level 2 in this game. It's quite difficult game, but full of button smashing. You have options to try out different characters in this game, and I think this game deserves solid B on my list. It's actually a very fun game. Good job, Tiny Toons. So these are the beat 'em ups I have played on Twitch live streams. I was doing like straight 30 days of only playing Game Boy Advance games, and I was doing this genre wise. I think so I had quite a lot of fun exploring. Like we played like a Batman, we played like a Spider-Man. There was no Superman game. I feel sorry. But yeah, we tried a lot of the TMMTs and all the freaking games launched as a beat 'em up on the Game Boy Advance. I don't think so I should have missed any, but even if you guys think that I have missed any of the games, please just comment down below and let me know how I can improvise my job of creating videos over here. Most of the time I just spend time streaming on Twitch, but I think so I should be pushing a lot of YouTube videos because I got across those watch hours. So if you guys think that I'm doing a great job, consider subscribing over there. It's free. I'm not asking for money, okay? And even if I ask the money, you should give it to me, right? Because I'm doing a great job. I think so I deserve at least $1. Am I right? Anyways, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you all for watching this. I really, really, really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great day.